everyone, and welcome back to my wine diary. Today is February 7th, and when I was thinking about my February videos for you, I of course thought about Valentine's Day. So one of the most common things to gift on Valentine's Day for some reason is wine and chocolate. And for me, the topic is a little bit touchy because I personally am not a fan of that combination, but I know a lot of people are. And some people just literally do not know whether they should pair your wine with chocolate, what kind of chocolate to pair with what kind of wine. So that's what we're talking about today. But before we jump into today's video, I would like to remind you that on this channel, I do everything wine related. Tastings, reviews, educational, fun videos. So if you're into wine like I am, please consider subscribing to this channel. The subscribe button is right down below, together with that notification bell for you to click on. Now, as I have already mentioned, wine and chocolate is not my cup of tea per se, but the general rule of thumb when pairing wine and chocolate is that your wine should be at least a little bit sweeter than your chocolate. And that especially goes towards all of the desserts and then being paired with much sweeter wines like sherry and ports. Now, how about regular wines or any other wine but sweet wines? Let's take a look. Now, here's good news. You have a bottle of wine and you have a bar of chocolate. A pretty good start if you ask me. Now, why is pairing wine and chocolate can be such a challenge? Here's why. Once you get more into wines and you start really sipping each sip with intent, you start to really taste all of the taste buds, you start to notice all of the aromas, you start to become more aware of all of the food and wine pairings and how they affect one another. Now, some food pairings can be an absolute dream and some can be a pretty bad nightmare. Now, here's a fun fact for you. Did you know that chocolate has tannins, just like wine? Now, pairing a very dark chocolate with a lot of tannins in it with a full body, high profile tannic wine will just make everything taste bitter. So that's not a good combination right there. Now, more fruitier wines, the ones on the lighter side with some residual sweetness to them, will mellow it all out. Now let's start with white chocolate. My personal least favorite type of chocolate. A lot of people like it. I personally don't. Now, did you actually know that white chocolate isn't chocolate? There is no substantial presence of chocolate in it except for cocoa butter. So technically white chocolate is not chocolate per se. Now, of course, we call it white chocolate, so it's just a mixture of cocoa butter, like I said, vanilla, milk, sugars, and whatnot. So what does go well with white chocolate? You can actually find some wines that will go pretty well with it. Now, that would be something on the lighter, sweeter side. So think about maybe an off-dry Riesling, or you can get away maybe with a fizzy Moscato, the white type. Next up is our milk chocolate. Now, milk chocolate is part chocolate, part cream, which makes it pretty versatile. So what do we pair our milk chocolate with? Here, if you go white, I would suggest something on a sweeter side, very aromatic, like this German Gewürztraminer. I know I'm probably butchering the name, but trust me, I practice every time I drink it. So Gewürztraminer is slightly similar to our sweet Riesling. So it's a very aromatic, very light / sweet wine. So this one will go greatly with our milk chocolate. Now, how about the reds? On the red side, I would go with the lighter, fruitier red wines like Pinot Noir and Merlot. So those will be a good choice for milk chocolate as well. Now, I have one more suggestion when it comes to milk chocolate, and that is some fizzy, lighter, fruit-forward red wines like Lambrusco, for instance. And the reason why I think that's a cool combination, it will make the palate taste somewhat like peanut butter and jelly. So test it out. I think that's a pretty cool one. Now let's talk about my personal favorite type of chocolate, and that is dark chocolate. So on paper, having a sip of red wine and having a bar of dark chocolate actually sounds pretty amazing, but in practice, both of those substances have a lot of tannins to them, so it will turn your dream into a nightmare. Like I mentioned before, everything will just taste bitter if you have a dry red wine and a dark, bold chocolate with 70+% cocoa in it. So I suggest you do that not. please do not do that. Now, what can we pair our dark chocolate with? And that would be something jammy and sweeter on the palate. So think about, say, a nice jammy Zinfandel, or maybe a ruby port of some sort. So yeah, those will actually go well with a dark chocolate piece. And before I move on to some of the bonus material that I have for you when it comes to pairing some chocolates with wines, I actually want to taste some chocolate with the wine that I have here in front of me as well. So when it comes to chocolate, I have two different types here. I have my dark chocolate, which is 88% cocoa, and I have my milk chocolate with 46%. So I'm going to try both of them with the same Gewürztraminer that I showed you earlier, which is an aromatic, white, sweeter German wine. So let's start with my actual suggestion with this wine, which was milk chocolate. So I'm going to take a sip without, then bite onto the chocolate, then take another sip, and be right back with you. I have to say, I'm actually pleasantly surprised. This is not bad at all. If you like fruitier, sweeter white wines like Gewürztraminer or say a sweeter Riesling, give that milk chocolate a go. Now, it did make it a little more acidic in my opinion, so what common folks would call sour, I guess, but I did get a little bite in the back of my jaw here with acidity, but it's not a bad feeling. I mean, honestly, it still tastes delicious, so I'm actually quite shocked that I am not disgusted by it. So check this out and try it. The only reason I'm cracking jokes about, you know, being disgusted or not is just because it's not my jam to have chocolate and wine. So I am very pleasantly surprised with this one. Now, what is dark chocolate going to do to our Gewürztraminer? So let's do the same thing we did before. We're going to swirl, have a drink, have some dark chocolate, then have another sip. I'll be right back. Yes, the difference is pretty big. Now, my dark chocolate is pretty dark. Maybe if you find dark chocolate with like 70% cocoa, it's not going to be as sharp of a difference from the milk chocolate. That was a pretty pleasant experience. But my chocolate here, my dark one, has 88% cocoa, which is barely any sugar in it, right? So it's pretty dark. Now, what I'm noticing, it's not as bad as if I, say, did the same combination with a Malbec or a Cabernet Sauvignon, right, where I would probably spit it out, frankly. But with this one here, I just felt that acidity and bitterness a little sharper than with milk chocolate. So it didn't really open anything up for me, and the acidity was not as pleasant as it was with milk chocolate. So I would definitely say that if you're going for some lighter, aromatic, sweeter wines like this one, the white wines, I would go with milk chocolate because that experience was rather pleasant. Now, as promised, I have a few of the bonus pieces for you that I found on the internet just by Googling it. Just because I don't really do chocolate and wine, I figured why not to see what other people say about flavored chocolate and pairings with wines, and maybe I'll test it out one day. So we'll start with mint flavored chocolate. Actually quite a fan of that one myself. So the internet suggests that we're trying that one. We're pairing it with a Syrah. So very fruit-oriented, black fruit-oriented, bold Syrah. So I'll give this one a go at some point because I love my Syrahs. Now the next one is your chocolate caramels. With that one, the suggestion was some nice sweet sherry. Makes sense in my head. You know, dessert with sweeter wines. Now the cool one was, one of the cool ones was your Reese's peanut butter cups with a nice port. So that again would bring me to the peanut butter and jelly sandwich kind of taste on your palate after you drink and eat it. So Reese's cups with a port. And the two more bonus points that I have for you here actually include the same Gewürztraminer that I'm drinking right now, and that is to have something with salt. So think about maybe some salt covered chocolate or even chocolate covered pretzels. So those will go very well with the same Gewürztraminer, or you can try them with a sweet Zinfandel. So give that one a go. Now, Valentine's Day is around the corner. What is a very common treat that our wonderful men give us for Valentine's Day, and that is chocolate covered strawberries. So what will go with those, especially if it's milk chocolate that they're covered with, I would certainly go with some of the semi-dry sparkling wines. All right, folks, this is it for today's video. And if you enjoyed it, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up down below and subscribe to this channel. This will really help my channel grow, and it would mean the world to me if you did that. I post videos every single week, so stay tuned for the next ones to come. And until next time, cheers everyone.